was what was depicted in Castaway, where Tom Hanks first tried it, but his drill was maybe about this big at the bottom, maybe about this big at the top, meaning that he could not get enough RPM on it. He had the right idea, but he still had seriously missed a lot of detail about how to make it happen. And the fireplow method they depicted him doing, which I've done, was faked horribly. I mean, it was pyrotechnics in it, you know. It was all wrong, like way wrong. Whereas for the adults here, if you've seen the movie Quest for Fire, that's what was depicted in there was the real thing. I mean, there was nothing staged or anything about it. It was about as real as you could hope to get. So, which is what I'm doing right now. So the idea here is that if I spin my drill with enough downward pressure in RPM, I can get friction to raise the temperature between the two surface contacts up high enough so that if I get up into the maybe 600, 700 Fahrenheit, I'll cause charred cellulose and carbon dust to fall out of my notch here and pile up next to the that'll be my fuel. Then I'll add a little bit more spin, a little bit faster spin and downward pressure. I'll bump it up into the mid 800 Fahrenheit. And that's going to be the magic range where the cellulose in the wood, in the absence of oxygen between the two surfaces, it's going to break down into flammable gases. Those are going to come out, hit the air, and react with the air, and we'll essentially have flame at the molecular level. You can't see it. It's invisible. But that'll be enough to actually start the dust pile to actually burn. So, I'm just going to go with the hole that I already have in here, except I'm going to do a little bit of trim work on this. A classic problem with hand drill is that I can wind up getting deep enough into the board that if I get these vertical walls in the fireboard hole, then I have to really make sure that that drill is exactly in there. If it tilts at all, it's going to bind, and I don't want to have that biting. So I'm just going to gouge things out here and kind of bevel off these edges, and then I can get one more ember out of this hole. Let's say cottonwood on cottonwood, I'm usually good for maybe two embers out of the same hole, so I don't have to always reset. Sagebrush on sagebrush, 2 to 3. Cottonwood on sagebrush, I could get 7 or 8 embers out of one hole, because the cottonwood's so much softer than my sagebrush that I wind up grinding down the bottom of the cottonwood drill much faster than I drill into the board. Okay. So now,
that is
so
awesome.
okay, the idea here is I want to keep my fingers, my hands, perpendicular to my drill as possible. If I get up on an angle like this, it's going to be very hard to keep downward pressure and spin it. So that means I want to be able to keep my forearms as parallel to the ground as possible.
Thanks.
I'm using Sotol, which is a very soft wood, a member of the agave family or yucca family out of the Arizona desert. And I'm using a drill that's local, made out of something common named mock orange. Genus Philadelphia. Grows a lot around the stream and riverbanks around here. I'm probably there. Diane. There's no rush. You'd be rushing if you had a lit match. So, this is last year's cattail. Pull some of these little cellulose hair-like fibers off. They're tied to the seeds, just like how dandelions and thistles work. They depend upon the wind, grabbing last year's and blowing it off somewhere else that's wet again, like the swamp. That's how they propagate. It's a nice transition media into my coarse moss, but it's also a nice tactic in case I'm dealing with damp conditions or high humidity that happens here in the valley and the Northwest in general, at least this side of the Cascades. Some of you can see the glow here.
How about a strawberry? a good blow.
It's a process that people depended upon for tens of thousands of years. Just years ago. Still people on the planet. That's new. Yeah.
Actually, there.
There's friction fire. Oh, I'm using, thank you. So, I'm rather underemployed these days, so if anybody wants to help there, that's great. I've got all this on DVD. They're only $10, so I've got those, and next month I should have kits. And I'll just keep running this again in case anybody got here late. So, I'm running Sotol